Thank you for joining me today on this uh, topic, which I think is pretty interesting. It's something I started thinking about last October and November. It's an observing challenge, and the Astronomical League is pretty well known for all its observing programs, its observing clubs. You know, we have close to 100 of these things, different things. But an observing challenge is a little bit different. It's not really meaty enough to justify it being an observing program. It's something that is kind of topical, that doesn't last all the time. It enhances your appreciation. And I think what's really cool about this is that these things can be done as a club presentation, so it'll help your astronomy club in the long run. And I'll explain what some of these are right now. We have a current challenge, and T Corona Borealis, which I'm not going to go into because you know that it is supposed to have gone nova 2 years ago now, and we're still waiting. So this is one challenge which has kind of been put on hold, but as of right now, it hasn't done so. So that's the current one. But the next challenge coming up is called the M102 mystery. It all has to do with the discovery of M102 by Charles Messier back in 1781, um, and what preceded from that. A lot of mistakes were made, so there really isn't a positive identification of what galaxy M102 really is. Charles Messier and Pierre Méchain both used instruments of about 4 inches in aperture. Now, what I like about this challenge is that I think to get the most out of it, you should use a small telescope. You normally don't want to use a small telescope for observing galaxies, but in this case you would, because you want to try to duplicate what Messier and Méchain saw in 1781. Their instruments were around 4-inch size. It just so happens that our famous library telescope, which a lot of you people know about, and a lot of libraries have across the country for loan, is 4.5 inches. So this type of telescope is really great for doing this observing challenge. The drawing you see is something that I made back in early November of M101, obviously. Um, and it's a drawing that I made when I looked through the library telescope that I happen to have. So you can see this galaxy through a telescope of this small. So back 1781. Okay, William Herschel was busy discovering Uranus. But Charles Messier and Pierre Méchain were enlarging their catalog of nebula that they were looking for in the sky. And Méchain came up with one called, which he was going to call M102. And in Messier's book, you can see what he wrote there. It's a nebula between the stars Omicron Boötis and Iota Draconis. And it is very near, it's very faint, and it's near a star of the sixth magnitude. Okay, this is a problem, right here. This is a problem because Omicron Boötis is nowhere near Iota Draconis in the heavens. You would not use Omicron as a reference star to help you find any galaxies located near Iota Draconis. Just to show you what I'm talking about, up at the upper part of the image, you can see Iota Draconis with a bunch of galaxies around it. And down towards the bottom is Omicron Boötis, some 42 degrees south. So there's no way that you would use that star to find something up near the handle of the Big Dipper or Draco. So what's going on here? Well, you can imagine in Messier's haste in writing all this stuff down, he's scribbling some stuff and he doesn't write it very clearly. He doesn't write the letter theta very clearly, and it kind of sloppy. It may look like the letter Omicron. They kind of resemble each other. Of course, Omicron doesn't have the crossbar, but that's probably what really happened here. Now, just to show you what I'm talking about, these are some of his notes. We're going to look at all this, but we're going to zoom in down here at the bottom, looking at M102, and you can see the little symbol there. And the Bouvier is for Bootes. And then, of course, Iota of the dragon, of Draco.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
the little
Hard to.
symbol, is that an omicron? Is that a little
Uh-huh.
zero? Or does this have a slash across it?
I don't
Now,
know. I think it has a slash across it.
I think it does too. From where I can see it, it looks like a theta to me. But so
Hmm.
many people way back then interpreted that as being an omicron.
Hmm.
So that's one difficulty of this whole investigation. So then we went on to what M101 really is. It's a brief translation of what Messier wrote. It's a starless nebula, okay, which we kind of know that, fairly large, and it's located between the left hand of Bootes and the tail of Ursa Major. For those of you who know where it is in the sky, that's kind of true. But M102, his notes a nebula between the stars Omicron, which we know isn't really true. It's rather theta in Bootes and Iota and Draco. Plus it's near a star of about the sixth magnitude. So you have Iota Draconis and Theta Bootes. Someplace in between there, according to that last slide, should be the galaxy. And M101 is, of course, in the opposite direction or to the upper right of that. So what's going on here with all of that? So is it in these galaxies in this region of the sky? Is that one of those going to be M102? A lot of people were thinking it should be NGC 5866. Now, again, this is through my little library telescope. I drew a picture of it, and you can see how small NGC 5866 really is in the sky. It's not large at all. So is 5866 really M102? Well, again, we're going to go to Messier's notebook. M102 is a nebula between the stars Omicron, or rather Theta and Bootes, and Iota and Draco. It is very faint and it's near a star of the sixth magnitude. Well, as you can see, 5866 is faint, and it happens to lie about 1 degree north of a 5.2 magnitude star, so it could be off a little bit. And it does lie between Theta Bootes and Iota Draconis. Okay, so maybe that's the galaxy that Macon saw. M5866 looks nothing like M101. And why do I bring that up? Because 2 years after they made the discovery, Pierre Méchain retracted, saying that he mistakenly reobserved M101 and he called that M102. So now you have a confusion.
Hmm.
M101 doesn't look anything like, of course, the 5866. They aren't really, they're kind of in the same part of the sky, but not really exactly. And you'd wonder how can any experienced observer uh, mistakenly look at M101, thinking it's a different galaxy and calling it M102, when that same person, that same observer, looked at this thing earlier, probably earlier in the same week. And he should know that the descriptions that he is giving just don't match M101, the true M101. You can see this again. This is what I drew, and M101 is fairly large. It's nice and round, and it's pretty faint through a 4-inch telescope, 4.5-inch telescope. Its star
Hmm.
field is pretty unique, so if you observe it again, you're going to see the same stars. So it has a rather distinctive shape. Now, the reason why we're doing this observing challenge, because there were so many missteps by people along the way, including Messier and Méchain misplotting M102, the whole bit with the Omicron and Theta bit, something real confusing there. Other observers, when they're trying to figure this out, um, said, hey, maybe it was Omicron Bootes was correct, and it was Iota Draconis that was wrong. Well, I'm not going to go into it, but that can't really have been. And then there were other observers that came along mistakenly thinking other galaxies were fitting in here, and they were all wrong. So this is a challenge for you to get through so you could see the missteps along the way and form your own opinion. Remember, our observing challenges I was talking about at the beginning was that you want to do an outreach activity, such as give a club presentation about what you saw and what you find. for this challenge, you want to observe M101 and the NGC 5866 galaxy group. Notice its differences, sketch it, image it, whatever. Identify certain stars. And then at the very end, indicate the pros and cons of it if M102 is really if 101, if M101 is really M102, or is NGC 5866 M102. So you have to state your conclusion, give your reasons. Is it something else? I don't know. People ask me this, what my opinion is. I don't have an opinion because I hate to say it, but sometimes I'm pretty easily swayed. I was reading the arguments for pros and cons of both these positions. And each time I'm reading it, I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's right. Yeah, this is what it's got to be. So then I turn the page and I start reading pros for the other object. And I go, yeah, that sounds right to me. That's got to be it. So don't ask me. But which is really kind of the purpose of this, of this whole challenge, is for you to get out under the stars, look at this stuff for yourself, make your own conclusions, try to live or relive a little bit of history. As I said, you don't need a large telescope. It can be pretty small. I was using a 4.5 inch. Back in April 3rd, about a month ago, on the Astronomical League Facebook page, we ran a little notice on this and how to go about doing it. And from what I gather, after reading all this stuff and knowing what's going on and what people did, I think the real lesson between all this stuff that I've just talked about is that, please, if you do some observing, take good notes. That was from the very beginning of messing around with Omicron versus Theta. And we all think it's Theta now, but if it was really clearly written, there wouldn't have been a problem. And there would be much less confusion about what is really M102. Is it M101 or is it NGC 5866?